Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna summarize all the previous circuit responses and visualize them, and we're gonna talk about how the response looks like. We're gonna summarize the response and the circuits, and we are gonna see how they look in graphical terms. So this is the source free circuit, R this is the source free RL circuit, and this is source free RC circuit. Say say this is source free response. Now this is step response. This is this RL circuit for sinusoidal input. So this is source free. So the circuits for different response. So this is the source free circuit configuration. This is the step response. RL, RC, RC, and RL. So here we can see the circuit for source free response, circuits for step response, and the RL and RC circuits for the sinusoidal response. So here first let us examine the source free RL and RC circuit. So and so we say source free or zero input response for RL and RC circuit when there's no source involved in the circuit. We have uh, connected no source. There is an absence of a particular constant source. So in this case, we assume that the inductor has initial current and capacitor has initial voltage, say. So what will the equation of these two source free circuits look like? So the source free response of RL circuit is, say, RL. For the RL, the response is the initial current of in the inductor of this RL series RL circuit will flow through this path, and it will dissipate the energy which is stored in magnetic field here in inside this inductor, and release it through the resistor, and the equation will look like I t equals to IO, the initial current. This is the response of the circuit when it is source free, the RL circuit. So for RC, the response is opposite, where the RL response was current uh, dissipating its energy via current through the resistor, the capacitor. Here for RC circuit, when it's source free, the response will be the initial voltage. The For the initial voltage, energy stored in electrical field will be dissipated through the resistor, so the response will look like this. Vt equals initial voltage Vo e to the power minus T by RC. So let me show you the graph in colors. So the R for the RL response, the source free RL response, so here is time t, and this is obviously IT. Say this is IO. So the response will be like this. This is IO e to the power minus T R by L. And say here this is the value, this is the time when the decaying is equal to 0 approximately. So here this time is called 5 tau, where tau is the time constant and tau is equals to here L by R. So let me draw this in green, the response of the RC circuit source free. So this is T, this is obviously Vt, the voltage. Say this is the initial voltage Vo. So the response will be the same. This is gradual decaying. This is Vo e to the power minus T by RC, and say this is 5 tau, and here the time constant is equals to RC. So this is the response of the source free RL and RC circuit. Now let's go to the next response. For the RL and RC step response, or the DC response, the mathematical representation will be so for the RL circuit, the step response is obviously current, which is equals to the transient response and the steady state response, which will be the full complete response of the RL circuit, which is the transient part, initial current minus the imposed current Is, e to the power minus t r by L plus the particular part. This is the transition part plus the particular part, which is is. Or we can also write this like this equation. We can also write this equation like this: the initial current minus Vs, the voltage, DC voltage, by R. So this is then e to the power minus t r by L plus Vs by R. So this is the complete response to step input for RL circuit. Now RC, the RC response is obviously voltage across the capacitor. Vt equals Vo, initial voltage across the capacitor, minus the impressed voltage e to the power minus t by Rc plus Vs. So this is the transition part and this is the steady state part. Now let us draw the diagrams and see what the response, the step response for the RL and RC circuits look like. So for the RL step response, say the initial current, so here IT, so say this is the initial current IO, sorry, this is too high, okay. So say this is the initial current. So we have the inductor already has an initial current, and furthermore we have imposed an extra uh, voltage or current on the inductor with which is in series with a resistor. So what will happen is, say if is equals to Vs by R is greater than the initial current, so the response will look like this. So it was like in the when t, this is 0, t equals 0. So when before t equals 0, there was initial DC current. So we are writing like this, and it will be, say this is is, so it will be like this. It will take some time, say this is 5 tau. Tau is L by R. So after 5 tau time, the initial current across the inductor would it won't vanish, it will increase. It will increase to is the impressed current on this RL circuit, and it will become is at 5 tau time. After 5 tau time, it will become the impressed current. So this is the response. So what will happen if the impressed current is less than IO? In this case, say I initial current is higher and the impressed current is lower. This. So what will happen is, before t equals 0, the initial current was IO. So here it will be a DC value, and after t equals 0, so this is, say this is the 5 tau. So this is the response, the step response of the RL circuit. Now let us see, let us observe the step response of RC circuit. So now we are observing the RC step response. Say that initial voltage VO is smaller than the impressed voltage Vs. So if this is the case, what will be the response? What will the response look like in time domain? So say this is the initial voltage across the capacitor, and this is the impressed voltage and the DC voltage. So before t equals 0, as we have impressed a voltage, a DC voltage on the RC circuit uh, at t equals 0, let us assume that. So before t equals 0, there was initial DC voltage uh, V0, which is obviously a DC value. So after after t equals 0, time t equals 0, the impressed voltage is Vs. So the response will be like this. So this is the response, and say it came to a steady state at 5 tau, where tau equals RC. Tau is time constant. For the RC circuit, the time constant is RC. So this is the response when initial voltage across the capacitor is less than the uh, impressed voltage on the RC circuit. Now say the initial voltage is greater than the impressed voltage, the input greater than the input. So the say that initial voltage across the capacitor is higher than the impressed voltage, and this is the impressed voltage. So before t equals 0, when before uh, we applied the input, there was initial voltage across capacitor, so which was DC value. So this is the DC value, and after t equals 0, the new voltage would be Vs. So the response will look like this. Say this is the time constant. So this is the response of the RC circuit to step input, and the case when initial voltage is greater than the impressed voltage or the input voltage. So this is the response. Now let us visualize the RL and RC response to sinusoidal excitation or sinusoidal input. So for RL, the RL response IT equals the transient part, initial current, if there is an initial current, plus Vs by impedance sine a phase shift phi z, say e to the power minus R by Lt. This is the transient response plus Vs by Z sine omega t minus phi. Okay, this is, let me write this little bit clearly. So the voltage by impedance sine omega t minus there is a phase shift. So Z, the impedance is R plus J omega L, and phi Z is tan inverse omega L by R. These are the considerations. Now, so what will be the and this is the response, obviously. What will it look like? So in time domain, so let me draw the so this is the response and this is time. So the transient response is, say this is IO, and like this, and this after t equals 0, this is t equals 0, after t equals 0 it will look like, so there's an extra uh, sign component with impressed current. So IO plus say this is IS, Vs by R, or sorry Z impedance. So this will be, so these two are plused. So so the transient response is initial current plus the impressed current with a sinusoidal term which is decaying. exponential decaying exponentially. So this will be like this, and say then it will go like this. So say this is the 5 tau, will decay out, leaving only the steady state part, which is Vs by z sine omega t minus phi z. There is a phase shift. So if the initially impressed vol- uh, initially impressed sinusoidal current is like this, say, so here let me, so say this is the impressed current, so I s sine omega t, and this is the response state, this is the steady state response of the RL circuit current I s, which is Vs by impedance sine omega t minus phi z. There is a phase shift, so the response is lagging. Okay, so so because the response is lagging, so it will be I think this will be here. So if you draw this, redraw this, if I redraw this, it will be like this. So say it is lagging, so approximately this will look like this. So as you can see, I have made this side by side comparison of the input voltage, input current, and the response of the RL circuit, which is also current. So the current is obviously sinusoidal, but it has a phase shift. So it has a phase shift phi z, which is this. So this is lagging. This is lagging uh, with the input current. So this is approximately, the response is approximately like this. It should be, there is, I think there is minimal uh, error I have done, but in actual this looks like this. You can visualize it in matlab or any other platform if you want to get the full uh, uh, with no minimal error view. So this is approximately the response, the sinusoidal response, the visual visually. So what sinusoidal response looks like, we're seeing this. Okay, so approximately it looks like this. So now, let us see the RC sinusoidal response. The RC sinusoidal response, voltage Vt equals V, the initial voltage, plus the impressed voltage Vs sine phi z cos phi z to the power minus t by Rc, with minus Vs sine phi z cos omega t plus phi z, where impedance is R minus j 1 by omega c, phi z is minus tan inverse 1 by omega rc. Now we're gonna observe this mathematical term in graphical representation. So this is time, this is Vt. Say this is the initial voltage, this is the impressed, the input voltage, the magnitude of the input voltage, and we can see that there's two terms, sine and cos. So it will basically look like this. This term is the transition part, so it will decay into nothing less. So then it will become, so say at this point, this is 5 tau. Tau is the time constant, and this is the approximate response of the circuit. So this is the approximate response of the circuit, and if we compare the RC sinusoidal response with its input, so input is obviously sine omega t. So say sine omega t is here, so this is where this is input, this is V is sine omega t, and this is Vs sine phi cos omega t plus phi. So this is the input and this is the output. So in the for RC sinusoidal response, there's extra sine phi term, I don't know, it came along with the solution, my viewers are um, encouraged to look at the derivation for yourselves. I don't think I have made any mistakes, but there's extra sinusoidal term sin phi with the phase shifted term cos phi. So this is the main response. So I think the response will basically look like this. The transient part will die out, which is the uh, this with initial voltage at this will die out at 5 tau. Tau is time constant, which is tau equals to RC, and after 5 tau it will oscillate um, like the impulse voltage, but with phase shift phi, in this case 90 plus phi, I guess 90 plus or 90 minus phi. Phi is this. So, and if we compare this with our input voltage, for input voltage is Vs sine omega t. This is the Vs sine omega t. So cos obviously leads the sine term. So I think approximately this is the response of the RC sinusoidal RC circuit to sinusoidal input. So that's it. If you have any problem in understanding my explanation, or if you see any mistakes in my videos, you can tell me in the comment section, or you can email me, and I am trying to make these videos as clear as possible, as straightforward and easy as possible, and with details. So if I have made any mistakes, you can tell me. I will do immediate correction. And please subscribe to my channels, support me, and thank you for watching this far.